Hello and welcome back to Proverbs, a letter to my son. Today we're going to look at lesson 14 in the series, and we'll be using the King James translation for this study. The topic of today is the drinking of alcoholic beverages by those who claim to be born-again followers of Christ. We're going to look at both the positive and the negative reasons to abstain. Let's look at the positive reasons first. I want to look at a verse that I think is central to the whole discussion. Let's read it. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. And notice I colored the is not wise in red. And because the whole issue in Proverbs is become wise and stay that way. Develop a biblical, genuine fear of the Lord and be wise. So those who engage in alcoholic drinking and get drunk are not wise. Let's rephrase this verse for today. It would read, wine and beer will make you loud and belligerent, and hard liquor will cause you to get into all sorts of arguments and fights. So getting drunk is not wise. Now I ask you, do you want to be wise? Or do you claim to be wise? If you are, then don't engage in something that can make you unwise. So, here we go. I firmly believe that it's not wise for a believer to drink alcoholic beverages, primarily for testimony's sake. Will it hurt you? No, a glass of wine won't hurt you. But for testimony's sake, how much do we want as an individual to be seen as a dedicated, separated, consistent witness and testimony for Christ? That becomes the issue here. So let's look at some verses in Proverbs that talk about the positive reasons why we shouldn't drink. In Proverbs 31, Lemuel's mother is teaching her son, King Lemuel, how to remain a good, godly man of character. And she deals with two things, alcoholic beverages and finding a good wife. So let's look at the drinking of alcohol aspect. Let's read the text. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. Give strong drink to him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. Let him drink and forget his poverty and remember his misery no more. Open thy mouth for the dumb in the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. Before we look at this a little more, we need to understand King Lemuel, obviously a king, but he was judge, jury, and executioner in his kingdom. And people depended on him to make wise, accurate, and just decisions when something came up in court, and these people didn't have means to defend themselves. So let's look at this again. We'll look at the first couple of verses of the same paragraph. It's not for kings, O Lemuel, not for kings to drink wine or princes to drink strong drink. So what's the issue here? She's saying, Lemuel, you need to be responsible. You're a king. You need to be aware every waking moment of the day of what's going on in your kingdom. And if you're stoned out of your mind, you not only won't make good decisions, you won't even know what the law says. So be careful. And then she adds to that now, open thy mouth for the dumb, for the cause of all such are appointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. This is how he is to be responsible. Get out there, judge people. Judge those that need your help, but do it in a manner that gives them a just and fair result. Now, you might notice I skipped verses 6 and 7 temporarily. Let's look at those now. Still the same paragraph. Give strong drink unto him that's ready to perish, and wine to those be of heavy hearts. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Who is it that should drink if they're going to? Now remember, we're talking about back in Lemuel's day. They didn't have pain medications. So who is it that needs to drink this? It's the guy that's on his deathbed. He's going to die. There's not an issue. And those folks were going to get him enough alcohol where he didn't feel anything. Most of you realize that when someone's drunk, they don't feel things. But give him enough so that he can die peacefully. Now, does another person need it? Well, if you're not dying, no, you don't need it. Let's rephrase it for today, because we do have painkillers. Give strong painkillers to the guy who's on his deathbed, and sedatives to those who are enduring unimaginable hurts and heartaches. Let that person take them and forget his difficulties and misery when he dies. So that's the section now. We looked at the whole section there. But there's more. That's a positive. Be a responsible person. Be a responsible person. Have a testimony for Christ that's above reproach. And if you're out there drinking, no, it won't kill you. Not just a few drinks. But what are other believers going to see? Is this the kind of person that's an example that I should follow? Oh, we need to be careful. Let's look at a paragraph in Ephesians. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. Notice, we're talking about wisdom here. Redeeming the time because the days are evil. Therefore be not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. And now he says, and be not drunk with wine, where is an excess, but rather be filled with the Spirit, speaking to yourself in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs and so on. But notice it says, don't get drunk with that. Rather, spend time in the Scriptures. Spend time meditating. Spend time with the Lord and meditate to the point where the Holy Spirit takes control of you, as much as if you'd gotten drunk and that alcohol took control of you. So this Ephesians saying, don't go to the alcohol, but rather go to the Lord and be filled with the Lord. Now let's look in Leviticus. I find it interesting here. Leviticus 10:8. And the Lord spoke to Aaron, saying, do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when you go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, and that ye may put a difference between the holy, here's the key, that ye may put a difference between the holy and the unholy, between the unclean and the clean, and that ye may teach your children of Israel all the statutes which the Lord hath spoken unto them by the hand of Moses. Notice, it's to put a difference between the holy and the unholy. So when we look at believers today, we should be different. We should be different than the world. And we choose not to ingest alcohol as a testimony of the fact that we belong to Christ and we don't indulge in what the world indulges in. Let's go to Judges chapter 13, and we'll just read the text here. And there was a certain man in Zorah of the family of Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren, and bare not. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman, and said unto her, Behold now, thou art barren, and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Now therefore beware, I pray thee, do not drink wine nor strong drink, nor eat anything unclean. But notice, don't drink. For thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. And obviously, we're talking about Samson here. And the woman came and told her husband, saying, A man of God came to me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God, very terrible. But I asked him not whence he was, neither told he me his name. But he said unto me, Behold, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and now drink no wine nor strong drink. The Lord told her to do this. And why? To set her apart from other people. Now, Samson obviously couldn't cut his hair, but if I remember right, he drank wine, but not his mother. Fascinating. But why should we avoid alcoholic beverages? Well, there are two reasons. First is for the sake of your testimony. Do you want to be seen as a good and godly man or woman? Absolutely set apart for the Lord. I don't mean in a proud way, but do you want to be seen as a good and godly man or woman? Then you would do well to avoid this. I know people do social drinking, and they don't get drunk. But I chose not to for testimony's sake, and then for the sake of your future. And you might say, well, what are you talking about? Well, I retired from law enforcement a few years ago. And there have been times when we had checkpoints out on the road, and we would stop everyone, check their driver's license and insurance. And at times we would smell alcohol in their breath. And there have been van loads of people who were not drunk as far as function, because the alcohol content in their blood was sufficient to make them legally drunk, and they went to jail. Now, how would you like to have this on your record? You say, what? Yeah, many of them only had something like 2 beers or a few glasses of wine. It doesn't take that much to get your blood level up that much. So I encourage you, as a believer, as a follower of Christ who wants to have a testimony above reproach, I encourage you not to get involved in alcohol. One thing before we move to the negatives, I used to teach a Bible class at the rescue mission in Los Angeles, and I rubbed shoulders with men who were doctors, lawyers, professionals, sharp men who were ruined. They lost their family, they lost their wealth, they lost their home, they lost everything. And they were trying to get back on their feet because this alcohol took total control over them. And here's a big issue, folks. None of us knows who the person is who, after taking their first drink, will get addicted to it. And once you get addicted, it's awfully hard to get off. So I encourage you along that way. So now let's move to the negative reasons why we should not drink alcohol. And we're dealing with both of those basically within the Proverbs. So the negative reasons, what's the first one? It will hurt you in several ways. Now, how will it hurt you? First, it will cause you to make decisions with disastrous consequences. Let's go to some Bible illustrations to see this. In 1 Samuel, David is running from Saul because Saul is intent in every way he can to kill David. And David has men that he has to feed. So he's out there in the wilderness, and he sends some of his men to Nabal and says, would you give us some provisions? And Nabal said, David? Who's David? I don't know him. All these people come and asking for help. Get lost. Wow. Well, David's men went back and told David, and David said, arm yourselves. We're going to wipe out this rascal. So they're on their way back to kill Nabal. And in the meantime, Abigail, Nabal's wife, finds out about it. And she gets a bunch of provisions and meets him before he gets to Nabal. She says, don't do this. Nabal's a fool. Don't do that. I have provisions for you. Please, take these and go back. And David said, thank you. You kept me from doing something I would regret later on. But the next day, now here's the negative reason. The next day, let's read the text. Abigail goes to her husband and tells him what she did. Verse 36, and Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he held a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was very merry within him, for he was very drunken. Wherefore she told him nothing, less or more, until the morning light. But it came to pass in the morning, when the wine was gone out of Nabal, his wife had told him these things, and his heart died within him, and he became as stone. So what happened? She told him what happened. He had a heart attack and died. So, what was the result of his poor decision? He died. He died. And just a rascal. We looked at the fools in lesson 3 and talked about the poor decisions they make. Nabal was the one that was just crude and cruel and never had a kind comment. Let's look at another. In Luke chapter 12, here's the man that had so much he was going to build bigger barns, and I'll just relax for the years to come. But Luke 12:19 and on says, and I will say to my soul, this is the rich man, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said unto him, thou fool, This night thy soul shall be required of thee. And then whose shall these things be which thou hast provided? So he drank, probably got drunk, I assume. But what did it cost him? He died. It cost him his life. Let's look farther down in the same chapter. And a servant had been put in charge while the master had gone on a trip. And the text says, and if that servant say in his heart, that's the one that's taking care of the house, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink and be drunken. So he's out here getting drunk, thinking, I can get away with this, but what's it going to cost him? Well, at the very least, he would be fired. So there's always a consequence somewhere down the road, and the consequences always showed up. Let's look at one more. In 1 Kings 16, this is just an interesting illustration. In the 20th and 6th year of Asa, king of Judah, began Elah, the son of Baasha, to reign over Israel in Tisra. 2 years. So this Elah is now taking the throne. And his servant now, verse 9, and his servant Zimri, captain of half his chariots, conspired against him. And he was in Tisra. Who's he? Elah. And Elah was in Tisra, drinking himself drunk in the house of Arza, steward of his house in Tisra. And Zimri, that's the servant, went in and smote him, killed him. And in the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, and reigned in his stead. So what happened? Elah's in there getting himself drunk instead of staying alert, and allowed himself to die. Poor decision, poor decision. Now, one more illustration, and it's in Proverbs chapter 23. Do not be among wine bibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall close a man with rags. There's the result of someone who actually becomes a drunkard. Now you say, I'm not a drunkard. Okay, who knows once they start drinking a little bit that they're going to become a drunk? If you don't drink any, you won't become a drunk. So let's look at another illustration. I find it interesting. Woe to him that giveth his neighbor drink, that puttest thy bottle to him, and makest him drunk also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Talking about nakedness. When a person gets drunk, they lose moral control. They don't care about morals. And they do some things they would never do if they were of a sound mind, and they're not of a sound mind when they're drunk. Look also, Lamentation 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Eden, who dwells in the land of Uz. But the cup will come around to you as well. You will be drunk and make yourself naked. Let's look at more. 2 godly men became drunk. One of them was Noah. Let's look at Genesis chapter 9. Then Noah, they just come out of the ark now, and Noah has started farming and planted a vineyard. He drank of the wine and became drunk and uncovered himself inside his tent. Now the rest of the story is where Ham went in and saw him and went out and told his brothers. And his brothers said, no, that's not right. That's bad. So they went backwards into the tent, and they covered up Noah. But Noah found out about it later and then cursed Ham for it. But notice, because he was drunk, he became naked. And then Lot did something that was not sound morals. He's in Sodom, and the Lord says, get out. So he leaves. On the way, his wife becomes a pillar of salt, and he and his daughters end up in a cave up in the mountains. And then when he gets to the mountains, his daughters get a contrived idea to get pregnant by their father. So let's look. And Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. And he dwelt in a cave, and his 2 daughters. And his firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him that we may preserve seed of our father. So they have this contrived idea to go in there and get pregnant by their father. So what happens? Look at the text there. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, had sexual relations with her. And he perceived not when she laid down, nor when she arose. Well, the other daughter wanted to get pregnant too, so what happened? It says in verse 36, and they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both daughters of Lot with child by their father. Lot engaged in incest with his daughters. Why? Because he was drunk. He didn't even know what was going on. There's the kind of hurt that results from getting drunk. What else will it do? It'll make you drunk if you're not careful. Really? That's obvious, isn't it? Well, Proverbs 23:29 through 35, and we'll look at a few verses at a time. Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wombs without cause? Who hath redness of eyes? They that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine. So you drink at it long enough, and guess what? That alcohol will take control of you. And then the next two verses. Look not upon the wine when it's red, when it giveth his color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. At the last it biteth like a serpent, and stingeth like an adder. It will take control of you if you drink long enough, and you'll become a person that you never thought you would when you're awake. So what else? You will lose your ability to reason. Let's look at the next verse in there. Thine eyes shall behold strange women, and thy heart shall utter perverse things. You'll see things that aren't there. You'll think they're there. One of the problems with drunk driving is that when you get drunk, your field of vision becomes very narrow, and you won't see things on the side. And that's part of the reason why drunk drivers get in so many accidents, because they won't see what's out there. What else? Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth on top of a mast. Can you imagine someone walking out to the ocean and saying, I'm going to go out there and take a nap on that wave? Right. You can see how long that'll last. Or someone climbing a 300-foot tower, and there's a 3 or 4 foot square platform up on top. I'm going to go up there and take a nap. I remember my dad telling me that one time when he was younger, he climbed up on a 300-foot tower and stood up on top of the platform and started his little free flight airplane and threw it off. I wouldn't even stand up. He thought later on, that wasn't too smart, was it? No. But these people that get drunk, they'll do stuff like that, and they don't even give it a second thought. What else? You won't know what's being done to you, and you won't feel pain. This is someone that's drunk now. They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. Now, does he know about this? No, not until someone tells him later on. And it's like, I did that? I don't feel anything. And they don't feel anything at the time. What else? You could easily develop an addiction to it and can't find a way to whip it. Watch what happens here. When shall I awake? I will seek it yet again. So the drunk, one characteristic of a drunk is when they wake up, they want another drink. My best friend's dad was a drunk. I remember driving from California to New Mexico with him, and he drank whiskey most of the way. And when we got to the hunting area, Ron's uncle and his dad polished off 3 or 4 cases of beer that week. They just kept ingesting it. And unfortunately, Ron's dad died of cirrhosis of the liver sometime later. Tragic. And I felt bad about it. So, why should we not drink alcohol? First, for the sake of your testimony. That's the big thing. We want to be seen as good and godly followers of Christ. And what else? For the sake of your future. How do you want to live? Do you want to die early? Do you want cirrhosis of the liver? Remember, only 2 beers could put you in jail because it makes you legally drunk. So these are the negative and the positive reasons why we shouldn't drink alcohol. And I encourage you, be a good and godly follower of Christ. You don't need to drink alcohol. There are other things you can drink. So I hope this has been a help. Yes, I feel that we should not drink alcohol. Others think we should. But I think the Bible indicates this. It's not wise to drink alcohol. If you want to be wise, don't engage in that which makes you unwise. I hope to see you in the next lesson. Thank you, and I'll see you then.